The Way of Perfection by Teresa of Ávila. Chapter 26 explains a method for recollecting one's mind, sets down some ways of doing this. The chapter is very useful for beginners in prayer. Now then, let us return to our vocal prayer, that it may be so recited that, without our being aware of the fact, God may grant us everything together and also enable us to say vocal prayers as we should, as I have mentioned. As is already known, the examination of conscience, the act of contrition, and the sign of the cross must come first. Then, daughters, since you are alone, strive to find a companion. Well, what better companion than the Master himself who taught you this prayer? Represent the Lord himself as close to you, and behold how lovingly and humbly he is teaching you. Believe me, you should remain with so good a friend as long as you can. If you grow accustomed to having him present at your side, and he sees that you do so with love, and that you go about striving to please him, you will not be able, as they say, to get away from him. He will never fail you. He will help you in all your trials. You will find him everywhere. Do you think it's some small matter to have a friend like this at your side? O sisters, those of you who cannot engage in much discursive reflection with the intellect, or keep your mind from distraction, get used to this practice. Get used to it. See, I know that you can do this, for I suffered many years from the trial, and it is a very great one, of not being able to quiet the mind in anything. But I know that the Lord does not leave us so abandoned. For if we humbly ask him for this friendship, he will not deny it to us. And if we cannot succeed in 1 year, we will succeed later. Let's not regret the time that is so well spent. Who is making us hurry? I am speaking of acquiring this habit and of striving to walk alongside this true master. I'm not asking you now that you think about him, or that you draw out a lot of concepts, or make long and subtle reflections with your intellect. I'm not asking you to do anything more than look at him. For who can keep you from turning the eyes of your soul toward this Lord, even if you do so just for a moment, if you can't do more? You can look at very ugly things. Won't you be able to look at the most beautiful thing imaginable? Well now, daughters, your spouse never takes his eyes off you. He has suffered your committing 1,000 ugly offenses and abominations against him, and this suffering wasn't enough for him to cease looking at you. Is it too much to ask you to turn your eyes from these exterior things in order to look at him sometimes? Behold, he is not waiting for anything else, as he says to the bride, than that we look at him. In the measure you desire him, you will find him. He so esteems our turning to look at him that no diligence will be lacking on his part. They say that for a woman to be a good wife toward her husband, she must be sad when he is sad, and joyful when he is joyful, even though she may not be so. See what subjection you have been freed from, sisters. The Lord, without deception, truly acts in such a way with us. He is the one who submits, and he wants you to be the lady with authority to rule. He submits to your will. If you are joyful, look at him as risen. Just imagining how he rose from the tomb will bring you joy. The brilliance, the beauty, the majesty, how victorious, how joyful. Indeed, like one coming forth from a battle where he has gained a great kingdom, and all of that plus himself he desires for you. Well, is it such a big thing that from time to time you turn your eyes to look upon one who gives you so much? If you are experiencing trials or are sad, behold him on the way to the garden. What great affliction he bore in his soul! For having become suffering itself, he tells us about it and complains of it. Or behold him bound to the column, filled with pain, with all his flesh torn in pieces for the great love he bears you. So much suffering, persecuted by some, spit on by others, denied by his friends, abandoned by them, with no one to defend him, frozen from the cold, left so alone that you can console each other. Or behold him burdened with the cross, for they didn't even let him take a breath. He will look at you with those eyes so beautiful and compassionate, filled with tears. He will forget his sorrows so as to console you in yours, merely because you yourselves go to him to be consoled, and you turn your head to look at him. O Lord of the world, my true spouse, you can say this to him if he has moved your heart to pity at seeing him thus, for not only will you desire to look at him, but you will also delight in speaking with him, not with ready-made prayers, but with those that come from the sorrow of your own heart, for he esteems them highly. Are you so in need, my lord and my love, that you would want to receive such poor company as mine? For I see by your expression that you have been consoled by me. Well then, how is it, Lord, that the angels leave you, and that even your Father doesn't console you? If it's true, Lord, that you want to endure everything for me, what is this that I suffer for you? Of what am I complaining? I am already ashamed, since I have seen you in such a condition. I desire to suffer, Lord, all the trials that come to me, and esteem them as a great good, enabling me to imitate you in something. Let us walk together, Lord. Wherever you go, I will go. Whatever you suffer, I will suffer. Take up that cross, daughters. Don't mind at all if the Jews trample upon you, if his trial can thereby be lessened. Pay no attention to what they say to you. Be deaf to their gossip. In stumbling, in falling with your spouse, do not withdraw from the cross or abandon it. Consider carefully the fatigue with which he walks, and how much greater his trials are than those trials you suffer, however great you may want to paint them, and no matter how much you grieve over them. You will come out consoled, because you will see that they are something to be laughed at when compared to those of the Lord. You will ask, sisters, how you can do this, saying that, if you had seen his majesty with your bodily eyes at the time he walked in this world, that you would have looked at him very willingly, and done so always. Don't believe it. Whoever doesn't want to use a little effort now to recollect at least the sense of sight, and look at this Lord within herself, for one can do so without danger, but with just a little care, would have been much less able to stay at the foot of the cross with the Magdalene, who saw his death with her own eyes. But how much the glorious Virgin and this blessed saint must have suffered! How many threats, how many wicked words, how much shoving about and rudeness! For the people around them were not exactly what we would call courteous. No, they were people from hell, ministers of the devil. Indeed, what these two suffered must have been terrible, but in the presence of another greater affliction they didn't feel their own. So, sisters, don't think you are capable of such great trials if you are not capable of such little ones. By exercising yourselves in these little trials, you will come to be able to suffer other greater ones. And believe that I am speaking the truth in saying that you can speak with him, for I have passed through this difficulty. What you can do as a help in this matter is try to carry about an image or painting of this Lord that is to your liking, not so as to carry it about on your heart and never look at it, but so as to speak often with him, for he will inspire you with what to say. Since you speak with other persons, why must words fail you more when you speak with God? Don't believe they will. At least, I will not believe they will if you acquire the habit. Otherwise, the failure to communicate with a person causes both estrangement and a failure to know how to speak with him, for it seems then that we don't know him, even if he may be a relative. Family ties and friendship are lost through a lack of communication. It is also a great help to take a good book written in the vernacular in order to recollect one's thoughts and pray well vocally, and little by little accustom the soul with coaxing and skill not to grow discouraged. Imagine that many years have passed since the soul left the house of its spouse, and that until it returns to this house there's a great need that it know how to deal with him. For so we sinners are. Our soul and our thoughts are so accustomed to wandering about at their own pleasure, or grief, to put it better, that the poor soul doesn't understand itself. In order that it get to love remaining at home once again, a great deal of skill is necessary. If little by little this is not accomplished, we shall never do anything. And I again assure you that if with care you grow accustomed to what I have said, your gain will be so great that even if I wanted to explain this to you, I wouldn't know how. Draw near then to this good master, with strong determination to learn what he teaches you, and his majesty will so provide that you will turn out to be good disciples. He will not abandon you if you do not abandon him. Consider the words that divine mouth speaks, for in the first word you will understand immediately the love he has for you. It is no small blessing and gift for the disciple to see that his master loves him. Chapter 27 deals with the great love our Lord showed us in the first words of the Our Father, and how important it is for those who truly want to be children of God to pay no attention whatsoever to lineage. Our Father, who art in heaven, O my Lord, how you do show yourself to be the Father of such a Son, and how your Son does show himself to be the Son of such a Father. May you be blessed for ever and ever. This favor would not be so great, Lord, if it came at the end of the prayer, but at the beginning. You fill our hands and give a reward so large that it would easily fill the intellect, and thus occupy the will in such a way one would be unable to speak a word. O daughters, how readily should perfect contemplation come at this point! Oh, how right it would be for the soul to enter within itself in order to rise the better above itself, that this Holy Son might make it understand the nature of the place where he says his Father dwells, which is in the heavens. Let us go forth from the earth, my daughters, for there is no reason that a favor like this should be so little esteemed, that after we have understood how great it is, we should still want to remain on earth. O Son of God and my Lord, how is it that you give so much altogether in the first words? Since you humble yourself to such an extreme in joining with us in prayer, and making yourself the brother of creatures so lowly and wretched, how is it that you give us in the name of your Father everything that can be given? For you desire that he consider us his children, because your word cannot fail. You oblige him to be true to your word, which is no small burden, since in being Father he must bear with us no matter how serious the offenses. If we return to him like the prodigal son, he has to pardon us. He has to console us in our trials. He has to sustain us in the way a father like this must. For, in effect, he must be better than all the fathers in the world, because in him everything must be faultless. And after all this he must make us sharers and heirs with you. Behold, my Lord, that since with the love you bear us and with your humility nothing will stop you. In sum, Lord, you are on earth and clothed with it. Since you possess our nature, it seems you have some reason to look to our gain. But behold, your Father is in heaven. You yourself said so. It is right that you look to his honor. Since you have vowed to undergo disgrace for us, leave your Father free. Don't oblige him to do so much for a people so wretched like myself, who will not thank you properly, and there are no others who will do better. O good Jesus, how clearly you have shown that you are one with him, and that your will is his, and his yours. How clear your declaration, my Lord! How magnificent it is, the love you bear us. You made use of roundabout ways, hiding from the devil the fact that you are the Son of God, and with the great desire you have for our good, nothing was able to stop you from granting us so very great a favor. Who could have done it but you, Lord? I don't know how the devil failed to understand in these words who you were, and had doubts about it. At least I see it clearly, my Jesus. You have spoken as a favored son for yourself and for us, and you are powerful enough so that what you say on earth will be done in heaven. May you be blessed forever, my Lord, for you are so willing to give that nothing will stop you from doing so. Well, daughters, doesn't it seem to you that this master is a good one, since in order to make us grow fond of learning what he teaches us, he begins by granting us so wonderful a favor? Does it seem right to you now that even though we recite these first words vocally, we should fail to let our intellects understand, and our hearts break in pieces at seeing such love? What son is there in the world who doesn't strive to learn who his Father is, when he knows he has such a good one, with so much majesty and power? If our Father had not so much majesty, it wouldn't surprise me if we refused to be known as his children. The world has come to such a state that if the Father is of a lower status than his Son, the Son doesn't feel honored in recognizing him as his Father. Such an attitude doesn't belong here. In this house, please God, may there never be any thought about such a thing. It would be a hell. But the one who is from nobler lineage should be the one to speak least about her father. All the sisters must be equal. O College of Christ, where St. Peter, being a fisherman, had more authority, and the Lord wanted it so, than St. Bartholomew, who was a king's son. His Majesty knew what would take place in the world where people dispute over lineage. These disputes in reality amount to nothing more than a debate about whether the mud is better for making bricks or adobes. God help me, what a great trial we bear. God deliver us, sisters, from similar disputes, even though they be in jest. I hope in his Majesty that he will do so. When this concern about lineage is noticed in a sister, apply a remedy at once, and let her fear lest she be Judas among the apostles. Give her penances until she understands that she doesn't deserve to be thought of as made from even a very wretched kind of mud. You have a good Father, for he gives you the good Jesus. Let no one in this house speak of any other father but him. And strive, my daughters, so to behave that you will deserve to find your delight in him, and cast yourselves into his arms. You already know that he will not reject you if you are good daughters. Who, then, would fail to strive so as not to lose such a father? O God, help me! How much there is in these words to give you consolation! So as not to enlarge any more on this matter, I want to leave it to your own reflection. For no matter how unruly one's mind may be, the truth is, leaving aside our gain in having so good a father, that the Holy Spirit must be present between such a son and such a father, and he will enkindle your will and bind it with a very great love. Chapter 28 explains the nature of the prayer of recollection and sets down some ways of getting accustomed to this form of prayer. Now, consider what your master says. Who art in heaven? Do you think it's of little importance to know what heaven is and where you must seek your most sacred Father? Well, I tell you that for wandering minds it is very important not only to believe these truths, but to strive to understand them by experience. Doing this is one of the ways of greatly slowing down the mind and recollecting the soul. You already know that God is everywhere. It's obvious then that where the king is, there is his court. In sum, wherever God is, there is heaven. Without a doubt, you can believe that where his majesty is present, all glory is present. Consider what St. Augustine says, that he sought him in many places, but found him ultimately within himself. Do you think it matters little for a soul with a wandering mind to understand this truth and see that there is no need to go to heaven in order to speak with one's eternal Father or find delight in him? Nor is there any need to shout. However softly we speak, he is near enough to hear us. Neither is there any need for wings to go to find him. All one need do is go into solitude and look at him within oneself, and not turn away from so good a guest, but with great humility speak to him as to a father. Beseech him as you would a father. Tell him about your trials. Ask him for a remedy against them, realizing that you are not worthy to be his daughter. Leave aside any of that faint-heartedness that some persons have and think is humility. You see, humility doesn't consist in refusing a favor the king offers you, but in accepting such a favor and understanding how bountifully it comes to you and being delighted with it. What a nice kind of humility! I have the Emperor of heaven and earth in my house, for he comes to it in order to favor me and be happy with me. And out of humility I do not want to answer him, or stay with him, or take what he gives me, but I leave him alone. Or while he is telling me and begging me to ask him for something, I do not do so but remain poor, and I even let him go, for he sees that I never finish trying to make up my mind. Have nothing to do with this kind of humility, daughters, but speak with him as with a father, or a brother, or a lord, or as with a spouse, sometimes in one way, at other times in another. He will teach you what you must do in order to please him. Don't be foolish. Take him at his word. Since he is your spouse, he will treat you accordingly. Consider that it is well worth while for you to have understood this truth, that the Lord is within us, and that there we must be with him. The intellect is recollected much more quickly with this kind of prayer, even though it may be vocal. It is a prayer that brings with it many blessings. This prayer is called recollection because the soul collects its faculties together and enters within itself to be with its God. And its divine master comes more quickly to teach it and give it the prayer of quiet than he would through any other method it might use. For centered there within itself, it can think about the Passion, and represent the Son, and offer him to the Father, and not tire the intellect by going to look for him on Mount Calvary, or in the garden, or at the pillar. Those who by such a method can enclose themselves within this little heaven of our soul, where the Maker of heaven and earth is present, and grow accustomed to refusing to be where the exterior senses in their distraction have gone, or look in that direction, should believe they are following an excellent path, and that they will not fail to drink water from the fount, for they will journey far in a short time. Their situation is like that of a person who travels by ship. With a little wind, he reaches the end of his journey in a few days. But those who go by land take longer. It's the path of heaven. I say of heaven because they are there in the palace of the king. They are not on earth, and are more secure against many occasions. Those who know how to recollect themselves are already out to sea, as they say, for even though they may not have got completely away from land, they do what they can during that time to get free from it by recollecting their senses within. If the recollection is true, it is felt very clearly, for it produces some effect in the soul. I don't know how to explain it. Whoever has experienced it will understand. The soul is like one who gets up from the table after winning a game, for it already sees what the things of the world are. It rises up at the best time, as one who enters a fortified castle to be safe from enemies. There is a withdrawing of the senses from exterior things, and a renunciation of them in such a way that, without one's realizing it, the eyes close so as to avoid seeing them, and so that the sight might be more awake to things of the soul. So, anyone who walks by this path keeps his eyes closed almost as often as he prays. This is a praiseworthy custom for many reasons. It is a striving so as not to look at things here below. This striving comes at the beginning. Afterward, there's no need to strive. A greater effort is needed to open the eyes while praying. It seems the soul is aware of being strengthened and fortified at the expense of the body, that it leaves the body alone and weakened, and that it receives in this recollection a supply of provisions to strengthen it against the body. And even though it isn't aware of this at the beginning, since the recollection is not so deep, for there are greater and lesser degrees of recollection, the soul should get used to this recollection. Although in the beginning the body causes difficulty because it claims its rights without realizing that it is cutting off its own head by not surrendering. If we make the effort, practice this recollection for some days, and get used to it, the gain will be clearly seen. We will understand, when beginning to pray, that the bees are approaching and entering the bee hive to make honey. And this recollection will be effected without our effort, because the Lord has desired that, during the time the faculties are drawn inward, the soul and its will may merit to have this dominion. When the soul does no more than give a sign that it wishes to be recollected, the senses obey it and become recollected. Even though they go out again afterward, their having already surrendered is a great thing, for they go out as captives and subjects and do not cause the harm they did previously. And when the will calls them back again, they come more quickly, until after many of these entries, the Lord wills that they rest entirely in perfect contemplation. May what has been said be well understood. Even though it seems obscure, it will be understood by anyone who desires to practice it. Therefore, those who know how to recollect themselves are like those who travel by sea. And since it is important for us not to proceed so slowly, let us speak a little about how we should get accustomed to a method that's so good. These souls are safer, from many occasions. The fire of divine love is more quickly enkindled when they blow a little with their intellects. Since they are close to the fire, a little spark will ignite and set everything ablaze. Because there is no impediment from outside, the soul is alone with its God. It is well prepared for this enkindling. I would like you to understand clearly this manner of prayer, which, as I have said, is called recollection. Well, let us imagine that within us is an extremely rich palace, built entirely of gold and precious stones, in some built for a lord such as this. Imagine, too, as is indeed so, that you have a part to play in order for the palace to be so beautiful, for there is no edifice as beautiful as is a soul pure and full of virtues. The greater the virtues, the more resplendent the jewels. Imagine also that in this palace dwells this mighty king, who has been gracious enough to become your father, and that he is seated upon an extremely valuable throne, which is your heart. This may seem trifling at the beginning. I mean, this image I've used in order to explain recollection. But the image may be very helpful, to you especially, for since we women have no learning, all of this imagining is necessary that we may truly understand that within us lies something incomparably more precious than what we see outside ourselves. Let's not imagine that we are hollow inside. And please God, it may be only women that go about forgetful of this inner richness and beauty. I consider it impossible for us to pay so much attention to worldly things if we take care to remember we have a guest such as this within us, for we then see how lowly these things are next to what we possess within ourselves. Well, what else does an animal do upon seeing what is pleasing to its sight than satisfy its hunger by taking the prey? Indeed, there should be some difference between them and us. You will laugh at me, perhaps, and say that what I am explaining is very clear, and you'll be right. For me, though, it was obscure for some time. I understood well that I had a soul, but what this soul deserved and who dwelt within it I did not understand because I had covered my eyes with the vanities of the world. For in my opinion, if I had understood, as I do now, that in this little palace of my soul dwelt so great a king, I would not have left him alone so often. I would have remained with him at times, and striven more so as not to be so unclean. But what a marvelous thing, that he who would fill 1,000 worlds, and many more with his grandeur, would enclose himself in something so small, and so he wanted to enclose himself in the womb of his most blessed mother. In fact, since he is Lord, he is free to do what he wants, and since he loves us, he adapts himself to our size, so that the soul won't be disturbed in the beginning by seeing that it is too small to have something so great within itself. The Lord doesn't give it this knowledge until he enlarges it little by little, and it has the capacity to receive what he will place within it. For this reason I say he is free to do what he wants, since he has the power to make this palace a large one. The whole point is that we should give ourselves to him with complete determination, and we should empty the soul in such a way that he can store things there or take them away as though it were his own property. And since his majesty has the rights of ownership, let us not oppose him. Even here below, guests in the house are a bother when we cannot tell them to leave. And since he doesn't force our will, he takes what we give him, but he doesn't give himself completely until we give ourselves completely. This fact is certain, and because it is so important, I bring it to your minds so often. He never works in the soul as he does when it is totally his, without any obstacle, nor do I see how he could. He is the friend of all good order. Now then, if we fill the palace with lowly people and trifles, how will there be room for the Lord with his court? He does enough by remaining just a little while in the midst of so much confusion. Do you think, daughters, that he comes alone? Don't you see that his son says, "Who art in heaven?" Well, since he is such a king, certainly his court attendants would never leave him alone, but they will always be with him. And they beseech him on our behalf, since they are full of charity. Don't think that things in heaven are like they are here below. For if here below a lord or prelate, because of certain of his own aims or because he wants to, favors someone, the envy of others is immediately stirred, and that poor person is hated without having done anything against them. Chapter 29 continues to present means for obtaining this prayer of recollection, how little it should matter to us whether or not we are favored by the bishop. For the love of God, daughters, don't bother about being favored by lords or prelates. Let each nun strive to do what she ought. If the bishop doesn't show gratitude for what she does, she can be sure that the Lord will repay and be grateful for it. Indeed, we have not come here to seek a reward in this life. Let us always direct our thoughts to what is lasting, and pay no attention to things here below, for even though our lives are short, these preferences do not last for us. Today the bishop will favor one sister, and tomorrow he will favor you if he sees one virtue more in you, and if he doesn't favor you, it matters little. Give no room to these thoughts. Sometimes they begin in a small way, but they can become very disturbing to you. Cut them off with the thought that your kingdom is not here below, and of how quickly all things come to an end. But even this kind of remedy is a lowly one, and not indicative of great perfection. It is better that this disfavor of your superior continue, that you be unappreciated and humbled, and that you accept this for the Lord who is with you. Turn your eyes inward and look within yourself, as is being said. You will find your master, for he will not fail you. Rather, the less you have of exterior consolation, the more he will favor you. He is very merciful, and he never fails persons who are afflicted and despised if they trust in him alone. So David says that the Lord is with the afflicted. Either you believe this or you don't. If you believe it, then why are you killing yourselves? O my Lord, if we truly knew you, we wouldn't care at all about anything, for you give much to those who sincerely want to trust in you. Believe, my friends, that it is a great thing to have knowledge of this truth, so that you can then see that all favors here below are a lie, when they divert the soul somewhat from entering within itself. O God, help me! Who will make you understand this? Certainly not I, for I know that I, who more than anyone should understand, have not succeeded in understanding it as it should be understood. Now, to return to what I was saying, I would like to know a way of explaining how this holy fellowship with our companion, the Saint of Saints, may be experienced without any hindrance to the solitude enjoyed between the soul and its spouse when the soul desires to enter this paradise within itself, to be with its God and close the door to all the world. I say desires because you must understand that this recollection is not something supernatural, but that it is something we can desire and achieve ourselves with the help of God. For without this help we can do nothing, not even have a good thought. This recollection is not a silence of the faculties. It is an enclosure of the faculties within the soul. The soul gains from this recollection in many ways, as is written in some books on mental prayer. Since I'm speaking only of how vocal prayer should be recited, well, there's no reason to say so much. What I'm trying to point out is that we should see and be present to the one with whom we speak without turning our backs on him, for I don't think speaking with God while thinking of 1,000 other vanities would amount to anything else but turning our backs on him. All the harm comes from not truly understanding that he is near, but in imagining him as far away. And indeed, how far if we go to heaven to seek him? Now, is your face such, Lord, that we would not look at it when you are so close to us? If people aren't looking at us when we speak, it doesn't seem to us that they are listening to what we say. And do we close our eyes to avoid seeing that you, Lord, are looking at us? How will we know whether you've heard what we're saying to you? This alone is what I want to explain, that in order to acquire the habit of easily recollecting our minds and understanding what we are saying and with whom we are speaking, it is necessary that the exterior senses be recollected and that we give them something with which to be occupied. For indeed we have heaven within ourselves, since the Lord of heaven is there. We must then disengage ourselves from everything, so as to approach God interiorly, and even in the midst of occupations withdraw within ourselves. Although it may be for only a moment that I remember I have that company within myself, doing so is very beneficial. In some, we must get used to delighting in the fact that it isn't necessary to shout in order to speak to him, for his majesty will give the experience that he is present. With this method we shall pray vocally with much calm, and any difficulty will be removed. For in the little amount of time we take to force ourselves to be close to this Lord, he will understand us as if through sign language. Thus, if we are about to say the Our Father many times, he will understand us after the first. He is very fond of taking away our difficulty. Even though we may recite this prayer no more than once in an hour, we can be aware that we are with him, of what we are asking him, of his willingness to give to us, and how eagerly he remains with us. If we have this awareness, he doesn't want us to be breaking our heads trying to speak a great deal to him. Therefore, sisters, out of love for the Lord, get used to praying the Our Father with this recollection, and you will see the benefit before long. This is a manner of praying that the soul gets so quickly used to that it doesn't go astray, nor do the faculties become restless, as time will tell. I only ask that you try this method, even though it may mean some struggle. Everything involves struggle before the habit is acquired, but I assure you that before long it will be a great consolation for you to know that you can find this Holy Father, whom you are beseeching, within you, without tiring yourself in seeking where he is. May the Lord teach this recollection to those of you who don't know about it, for I confess that I never knew what it was to pray with satisfaction until the Lord taught me this method. And it is because I have always found so many benefits from this habit of recollection that I have enlarged so much upon it. I conclude by saying that whoever wishes to acquire it, since, as I say, it lies within our power, should not tire of getting used to what has been explained. It involves a gradual increase of self-control, and an end to vain wandering from the right path. It means conquering, which is a making use of one's senses for the sake of the inner life. If you speak, strive to remember that the one with whom you are speaking is present within. If you listen, remember that you are going to hear one who is very close to you when he speaks. In sum, bear in mind that you can, if you want, avoid ever withdrawing from such good company, and be sorry that for a long time you left your Father alone, of whom you are so much in need. If you can, practice this recollection often during the day. If not, do so a few times. As you become accustomed to it, you will experience the benefit, either sooner or later. Once this recollection is given by the Lord, you will not exchange it for any treasure. Since nothing is learned without a little effort, consider, sisters, for the love of God, as well employed the attention you give to this method of prayer. I know, if you try, that within a year, or perhaps half a year, you will acquire it, by the favor of God. See how little time it takes for a gain as great as is that of laying a good foundation. If then the Lord should desire to raise you to higher things, he will discover in you the readiness, finding that you are close to him. May it please his majesty that we not consent to withdrawing from his presence. Amen. Perhaps all of you know what I've explained, but someone may come along who will not know it. For that reason, don't be annoyed that I've mentioned it here. Now let us come to learn how our good master continues and begins to petition his Holy Father for us. It is good that we understand what he asks. Chapter 30. The importance of understanding what is being asked for in prayer, deals with the next words of the Our Father. Sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum. Applies these words to the prayer of quiet and begins to explain this kind of prayer. Is there anyone however foolish, who, when he is about to ask for something from an important person, doesn't think over how he should go about asking. He must find favor with this person and not seem rude. He thinks about what he should ask for and why he needs it, especially if he is asking for something significant, which is what our good Jesus teaches us to ask for. There is something, it seems to me, that should be noted. Couldn't you, my Lord, have concluded the Our Father with the words, "Give us, Father, what is fitting for us"? It doesn't seem there would have been need to say anything else to one who understands everything so well. O eternal wisdom! Between you and your Father these words would have sufficed. Your petition in the garden was like this. You manifested your own desire and fear, but you abandoned them to his will. Yet you know us, my Lord, that we are not as surrendered to the will of your Father as you were. You know that it was necessary for you to make those specific requests so that we might pause to consider if what we are seeking is good for us, so that if it isn't, we won't ask for it. If we aren't given what we want, being what we are, with this free will we have, we might not accept what the Lord gives. For although what he gives is better, we don't think we'll ever become rich, since we don't at once see the money in our hand. Oh, God, help me! What a pity to have so unawakened a faith that we never come to understand fully the certainty of both punishment and reward. As a result, it is good, daughters, that you understand what you are asking for in the Our Father, so that if the Eternal Father should offer it to you, you will not scoff at it. And consider very carefully whether what you ask for is good for you. If it isn't, don't ask for it, but ask His Majesty to give you light. For we are blind and feel loathing for the food that will give us life. We want the food that will bring us death. And what a death! So dangerous and so everlasting. Well, Jesus says that we may recite these words in which we ask for a kingdom like His to come within us. Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come within us. Now, behold, daughters, how great the wisdom of our Master is. I am reflecting here on what we are asking for when we ask for this kingdom, and it is good that we understand our request. But since His Majesty saw that we could neither hallow, nor praise, nor extol, nor glorify this holy name of the Eternal Father in a fitting way, because of the tiny amount we ourselves are capable of doing, He provided for us by giving us here on earth His kingdom. That is why Jesus put these two petitions next to each other. I want to tell you here, daughters, what I understand, so that we may know what we are asking for, and the importance of our begging persistently for it, and do as much as we can so as to please the one who is to give it to us. If I do not satisfy you, you can think up other reflections yourselves. Our Master will allow us to make these reflections, provided that we submit in all things to what the Church holds, as I do always. And I will not even give you this to read until learned persons have seen it. At least if there is anything incorrect, the error will not be done through malice, but for my not knowing any better. Now then, the great good that it seems to me there will be in the kingdom of heaven, among many other blessings, is that one will no longer take any account of earthly things, but have a calmness and glory within. Rejoice in the fact that all are rejoicing. Experience perpetual peace and a wonderful inner satisfaction that comes from seeing that everyone hallows and praises the Lord and blesses His name, and that no one offends Him. Everyone loves Him there, and the soul itself doesn't think about anything else than loving Him. Nor can it cease loving Him, because it knows Him, and would that we could love Him in this way here below, even though we may not be able to do so with such perfection or stability. But if we knew Him, we would love in a way very different from that in which we do love Him. It seems I'm saying that we would have to be angels in order to make this petition and recite well our vocal prayers. Our Divine Master would truly desire this, since He asks us to make so lofty a petition, and certainly He doesn't tell us to ask for impossible things. The above would be possible, through the favor of God, for a soul placed in this exile, but not with the perfection of those who have gone forth from this prison. For we are at sea and journeying along this way. But there are times when, tired from our travels, we experience that the Lord calms our faculties and quiets the soul, as though, by signs, He gives us a clear foretaste of what will be given to those He brings to His kingdom, and to those to whom He gives here below the kingdom we ask for. He gives pledges so that through these they may have great hope of going to enjoy perpetually what here on earth is given only in sips. If you wouldn't say that I'm treating of contemplation, this petition would provide a good opportunity for speaking a little about the beginning of pure contemplation. Those who experience this prayer call it the prayer of quiet. But since, as I say, I'm dealing with vocal prayer, it may seem to anyone who doesn't know about the matter that vocal prayer doesn't go with contemplation. But I know that it does. Pardon me, but I want to say this. I know there are many persons who, while praying vocally, as has already been mentioned, are raised by God to sublime contemplation, without their striving for anything, or understanding how. It's because of this that I insist so much, daughters, upon your reciting vocal prayer well. I know a person who was never able to pray any way but vocally, and though she was tied to this form of prayer, she experienced everything else. And if she didn't recite vocal prayer, her mind wandered so much that she couldn't bear it. Would that our mental prayer were as good! She spent several hours reciting a certain number of Our Fathers, in memory of the times our Lord shed his blood, as well as a few other vocal prayers. Once she came to me very afflicted because she didn't know how to practice mental prayer, nor could she contemplate. She could only pray vocally. I asked her how she was praying, and I saw that though she was tied to the Our Father, she experienced pure contemplation, and that the Lord was raising her up and joining her with himself in union. And from her deeds it seemed truly that she was receiving such great favors, for she was living a very good life. So I praised the Lord and envied her for her vocal prayer. If this account is true, as it is, those of you who are the enemies of contemplatives should not think that you are free from being a contemplative if you recite your vocal prayers as they should be recited, with a pure conscience. And so I will speak of this again. Whoever doesn't want to hear it may pass on. Chapter 31 continues on the same subject, explains the nature of the prayer of quiet, gives some advice for those who experience it. This chapter should be carefully noted. Well, daughters, I nonetheless want to explain this prayer of quiet. I have heard talk about it, or the Lord has given me understanding of it, perhaps, that I might tell you of it, and that others may praise him. Although since I have written about it elsewhere, as I said, I will not give lengthy explanations, but just say something. In this prayer, it seems the Lord begins, as I have said, to show that he hears our petition. He begins now to give us his kingdom here below, so that we may truly praise and hallow his name, and strive that all persons do so. This prayer is something supernatural, something we cannot procure through our own efforts. In it the soul enters into peace, or better, the Lord puts it at peace by his presence, as he did to the just Simeon, so that all the faculties are calmed. The soul understands in another way, very foreign to the way it understands through the exterior senses, that it is now close to its God, and that not much more would be required for it to become one with him in union. This is not because it sees him with the eyes either of the body or of the soul. The just Simeon didn't see any more than the glorious, little, poor child. For by the way the child was clothed, and by the few people that were in the procession, Simeon could have easily judged the babe to be the son of poor people rather than the son of our heavenly Father. But the child himself made Simeon understand. And this is how the soul understands here, although not with as much clarity. For the soul likewise fails to understand how it understands. But it sees it is in the kingdom, at least near the king who will give the kingdom to the soul. And seemingly the soul has so much reverence that it doesn't even dare ask for this. The state resembles an interior and exterior swoon. For the exterior man, or so that you will understand me better, I mean the body, for some simpleton will come along who won't know what interior and exterior means. Doesn't want any activity. But like one who has almost reached the end of his journey, he wants to rest so as to be better able to continue. In this rest his strength for the journey is doubled. A person feels the greatest delight in his body and a great satisfaction in his soul. He feels so happy, merely with being close to the fount, that he is satisfied even without drinking. It doesn't seem there is anything else for him to desire. The faculties are still. They wouldn't want to be busy. Everything else seems to hinder them from loving. But they are not completely lost. They can think of who it is they are near, for two of them are free. The will is the one that is captive here. If there is some sorrow that can be experienced while in this state, that sorrow comes from a realization that the will must return to the state of being free. The intellect wouldn't want to understand more than one thing, nor would the memory want to be occupied with anything else. Persons in this prayer see that only this one thing is necessary, and everything else disturbs them. They don't want the body to move, because it seems they would thereby lose that peace. Thus they don't dare stir. It pains them to speak. In their saying, "Our Father," just once a whole hour passes. They are so close that they see they are understanding as though through signs. They are within the palace, near the king, and they see that he is beginning to give them here his kingdom. It doesn't seem to them that they are in the world, nor would they want to see or hear about anything other than their God. Nothing pains them, nor does it seem anything ever will. In sum, while this prayer lasts, they are so absorbed and engulfed with the satisfaction and delight they experience within themselves that they do not remember there is more to desire. They would eagerly say, with St. Peter, "Lord, let us build 3 dwelling places here." Sometimes, in this prayer of quiet, the Lord grants another favor which is very difficult to understand if there is not a great deal of experience. But if there is some experience, the one who receives it will immediately understand. It will be a great consolation for you to know what it is, and I believe God often grants this favor together with the other one. When this quiet is great, and lasts for a long while, it seems to me that the will wouldn't be able to remain so long in that peace if it weren't bound to something. For it may happen that we will go about with this satisfaction for a day or 2, and will not understand ourselves, I mean those who experience it, and they definitely see that they are not wholly in what they are doing, but that the best part is lacking, that is, the will. The will, in my opinion, is then united with its God, and leaves the other faculties free to be occupied in what is for his service, and they then have much more ability for this. But in worldly matters these faculties are dull, and at times as though in a stupor. This is a great favor for those to whom the Lord grants it. The active and the contemplative lives are joined. The faculties all serve the Lord together. The will is occupied in its work and contemplation without knowing how. The other 2 faculties serve in the work of Martha. Thus Martha and Mary walk together. I know someone whom the Lord often placed in this state. She didn't know what to make of it and asked a great contemplative. He answered that the experience was very possible, that it had happened to him. Thus, I think that, because the soul is so satisfied in this prayer of quiet, the faculty of the will remains more continually united with him, who alone can satisfy it. I think it would be good here to give some counsels for those of you, sisters, whom the Lord, solely through his goodness, has brought here, for I know there are some of you. The first is that since they see themselves in that contentment, and do not know how it came on them, at least they see they cannot obtain it by themselves, they experience this temptation. They think they'll be able to hold on to that satisfaction, and they don't even dare take a breath. This is foolish, for just as there's nothing we can do to make the sun rise, there's little we can do to keep it from setting. This prayer is no longer our work, for it's something very supernatural and something very much beyond our power to acquire by ourselves. The best way to hold on to this favor is to understand clearly that we can neither bring it about nor remove it. We can only receive it with gratitude, as most unworthy of it, and this not with many words, but by raising our eyes to him, as the publican did. It is good to find more solitude so as to make room for the Lord, and allow his majesty to work as though with something belonging to him. At most, a gentle word from time to time is sufficient, as in the case of one who blows on a candle to enkindle it again when it begins to die out. But if the candle is burning, blowing on it will, in my opinion, serve no other purpose than to put it out. I say that the blowing should be gentle, lest the will be distracted by the intellect, busying itself with many words. And note well, friends, this counsel that I now wish to give, for you'll often see that you'll be unable to manage these other 2 faculties. It happens that the soul will be in the greatest quiet, and the intellect will be so distracted that it won't seem that the quiet is present in the intellect's house. It seems to the intellect during that time that it is nowhere else than in a stranger's house, as a guest, and seeking other dwelling places because the house it's in doesn't satisfy it, and it knows little about how to remain stable. Perhaps it's only my intellect that's like this, and others' intellects are not. I am speaking about myself, for sometimes I want to die in that I cannot cure this wandering of the intellect. At other times I think it takes up residence in its own house and accompanies the will. It's a wonderful thing when all 3 faculties are in accord. It's like what happens between two married people. If they love each other, the one wants what the other wants. But if the husband is unhappily married, it's easy to see what disturbance he'll cause his wife. Thus, when the will finds itself in this quiet, and note well this counsel, for the matter is important, it shouldn't pay any more attention to the intellect than it would to a madman. For should it want to keep the intellect near itself, it will necessarily have to be somewhat disturbed and disquieted. And in this state of prayer, everything will then amount to working without any further gain, but with a loss of what the Lord was giving the will without its own work. And notice carefully this comparison, for the Lord put it in my mind while I was at prayer. It seems to me very appropriate. The soul is like an infant that still nurses when at its mother's breast, and the mother, without her babe's effort to suckle, puts the milk in its mouth in order to give it delight. So it is here, for without effort of the intellect, the will is loving, and the Lord desires that the will, without thinking about the matter, understand that it is with him, and that it does no more than swallow the milk His Majesty places in its mouth, and enjoy that sweetness. For the will knows that it is the Lord who is granting that favor, and the will rejoices in its enjoyment. It doesn't desire to understand how it enjoys the favor or what it enjoys, but it forgets itself during that time, for the one who is near it will not forget to observe what is fitting for it. If the will goes out to fight with the intellect so as to give a share of the experience, by drawing the intellect after itself, it cannot do so at all. It will be forced to let the milk fall from its mouth and lose that divine nourishment. This is the way this prayer of quiet is different from that prayer in which the entire soul is united with God, for then the soul doesn't even go through the process of swallowing this divine food. Without its understanding how, the Lord places the milk within it. In this prayer of quiet, it seems that He wants it to work a little, although so gently that it almost doesn't feel its effort. Whoever experiences this prayer will understand clearly what I'm saying, if after having read this he reflects on it carefully. And let him consider how important the matter is. If he doesn't experience the prayer, this will seem like gibberish. That which torments the will is the intellect. The intellect doesn't cause this torment when there is union of all three faculties, for He who created them suspends them. With the joy He gives them, He keeps them all occupied without their knowing or understanding how. Thus, as I say, they feel this prayer within themselves, a quiet and great contentment of the will, without being able to discern what it is specifically. Yet the soul easily discerns that it is far different from earthly satisfactions, and that ruling the world with all its delights wouldn't be enough to make the soul feel that delight within itself. The delight is in the interior of the will, for the other consolations of life, it seems to me, are enjoyed in the exterior of the will, as in the outer bark, we might say. When the will sees itself in this degree of prayer so sublime, for the prayer is, as I have already said, very recognizably supernatural, it laughs at the intellect as at a fool when this intellect, or mind, to explain myself better, goes off to the more foolish things of the world. The will remains in its quietude, for the intellect will come and go. In this prayer, the will is the ruler and the powerful one. It will draw the intellect after itself without your being disturbed. And if the will should desire to draw the intellect by force of arms, the strength it has against the intellect will be lost. This strength comes from eating and receiving that divine food. And neither the will nor the intellect will gain anything, but both will lose. As the saying goes, whoever tries to grasp too much loses everything. This, it seems to me, is what will happen here. Experience will enable one to understand, for I wouldn't be surprised if to anyone who doesn't have this experience, what I've said would seem very obscure and unnecessary. But I've already mentioned that with a little experience, one will understand it, be able to benefit from it, and will praise the Lord because He was pleased that I managed to explain it here. Now then, let's conclude by saying that to the soul placed in this prayer, it seems the Eternal Father has already here below granted its petition for His kingdom. O blessed request, in which without realizing it we ask for so much good. What a blessed way of asking! For this reason, sisters, I want us to look at how we recite this prayer, the Our Father, and all other vocal prayers. For when this favor is granted by God, we shall forget the things of the world. When the Lord of the world arrives, He casts out everything else. I don't say that all those who experience this prayer must by necessity be completely detached from the world. At least I would like them to know what is lacking, and that they humble themselves and try to go on detaching themselves from everything. If they don't, they will remain in this state. A soul to whom God gives such pledges has a sign that he wants to give it a great deal. If not impeded through its own fault, it will advance very far. But if the Lord sees that after he places the kingdom of heaven in the soul's house, this soul turns to earthly things, he will not only fail to show it the secrets there are in his kingdom, but will seldom grant it this favor, and then for just a short space of time. Now, it could be that I am mistaken in this matter, but I see and know that this is what happens, and in my opinion this is why there are not many more spiritual persons. When individuals do not respond by service, that is in conformity with so great a favor, when they do not prepare themselves to receive it again, but take back their wills from the hands of the Lord, who already possesses these wills as his own, and set them upon base things, the Lord goes in search of those who do love him so as to give more to them. Yet he doesn't take away entirely what he has given, when one lives with a pure conscience. But there are persons, and I have been one of them, who make themselves deaf when the Lord, taking pity on them, gives them holy inspirations and light concerning the nature of things, and in some gives this kingdom and places them in this prayer of quiet. For they are so fond of speaking and reciting many vocal prayers very quickly, like one who wants to get a job done, since they oblige themselves to recite these every day, that even though, as I say, the Lord places his kingdom in their hands, they do not receive it. But with their vocal prayers they think they are doing better, and they distract themselves from the prayer of quiet. Do not do this, sisters, but be on your guard when the Lord grants you this favor. Consider that you are losing a great treasure, and that you do much more by saying one word of the Our Father from time to time than by rushing through the entire prayer many times. You are very close to the one you petition. He will not fail to hear you. And believe that herein lies the true praise and hallowing of his name. For now, as one who is in his house, you glorify the Lord and praise him with more affection and desire, and it seems that you cannot fail to serve him. Thus I counsel you to be very careful in this matter, because it is extremely important.